Hello, everyone. Welcome. So excited to get started today. Hey, Eloise. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Morgan.
Hi. How are you? You've got a beautiful sky behind both of you. Nice and sunny there today.
He's gorgeous.
All right, I think before we get into it, let's maybe just cover some essentials. We are recording the session for today, so I can see everyone trickling in now. You will get a recording once we finish up. And as you guys think of questions, please pop them in the Q&A. We have a dedicated Q&A section at the end, but please don't stress if we don't get to your question. We will reach out to you afterwards with an answer. Thank you to everyone for answering our little registration question here. What is your brand's main focus to increase resilience right now? And I was saying to the guys, this is not surprising, these results. We have some overwhelming results, actually. 40% to improving planning and forecasting, and a quick runner-up of 37% to new customer acquisition. And really, these are the two pillars of growth. This is what we want to see. I think my only comment here is, be ready for when your new customers come in. And I think these two really play hand in hand when you're growing a fashion business. New customer acquisition, we want new people, but once they get there, we need to try our best. I know we don't have a crystal ball, but the more you can try and improve on your planning, your forecasting, and be reactive in the moment, the better off you'll be. Cool. Okay, I can see some new faces in the crowd today. Hello, I am Morgan. I will be your moderator for today. I am a buying and planning strategy specialist here at LSKD, and I actually come from a background of merch buying and planning, given by the title, you'd hope. And I have two lovely ladies with me. I'm so excited to get into it. We have Eloise. She is a senior women's wear buyer and planner at LSKD with an amazing background in fast fashion women's wear and homewares. Eloise, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
And we also have Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Chris is our COO here at LSKD. She has an extensive background in retail, buying, planning, operations, a lot. So we have a lot to talk about for today.
Thanks, Morgan. I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. It'll be a good one.
Oh, all right, well, let's get into it. Eloise, I actually want to start with you because I want to talk about LSKD a bit more. I love LSKD. I've been following you guys for a while, also known for Loose Kid, which I actually learned recently while we were chatting before this webinar. I had no idea that's what that was short for. But I really just want to focus on the philosophy of 1% better. What a cool way to run a business. Could you tell me what that means to you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely part of our story, and we all love sharing that. So we actually joke at LSKD that we're a 20-year overnight success. Obviously, we've been popping up a lot more in the market, but we actually started out in 2002 as Loose Kid Industries, which was the name of our the high school nickname of our founder, Jace, back when he was riding BMX. In 2007, we evolved into LKI, and up until 2010, it was actually run out of Jace's mum's house. In 2018, we changed to LSKD, and this is where we really built our mission and values together as a team and really focused on our why, which is where 1% better really started to come through. So during the change to LSKD, there was and still is a huge focus on building team culture. Building our core values as a team created this incredible alignment within the business and gave us this incredibly strong foundation to continue to grow from. Everything we do relates back to our values. And if you find yourself doing something that doesn't fit, then really you should stop doing it. And it's a great sense check to help us stay aligned and focused. We have to be living our mission and our values, being 1% better every day, before we can really expect our community to come on that journey with us. One part of that is really a massive focus on personal development. LSKD invests so much into us in our personal growth, particularly through books. Books are a huge part of who we are at LSKD. We have 9 core books in our library, and as well as a book library in each store, and a book club, as well as a library in our office as well. These books help create a common language and a shared experience that really you just can't explain until you've experienced it. It's something so special. But I think really key to being 1% better is throughout our journey, we've constantly been learning and failing forward. And something key to our growth has been being open to feedback from our team and our community, because their feedback allows us to improve and be 1% better every day. And when you add up those changes over the course of a year, you'll be 37 times better than where you started.
I love that. 37%. 37 times better, excuse me. But also I love a book club. Yeah. I'm such a nerd for a book club, so I love that you mentioned that. How cool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Chris, did you have any thoughts on 1% better for you? Have you come across this notion in your career?
Yeah, definitely. But also just on the book club piece, I was just looking over. We've got a little book club going on in the LSKD office as well. I so love this concept of the 1% better. Most of the time there really isn't a silver bullet, to mitigate risk or to come up with that perfect growth strategy. So it really is, all about the 1% ingredients that go into creating not only a successful season, but, ultimately a successful and resilient brand. So I think everyone, has great learnings after going through, significant market changes and challenges. And for me, achieving, that 1% better, like Eloise just mentioned, is, it's magnified when you invest in your team. And it sounds so obvious, but you have a much better chance of reaching, your business goal if all teams are across a business, are aligned with the vision, and are clear on what they're responsible for, to get there. So I think bringing teams on the journey of defining, what is the brand vision? What do we stand for? What are we striving for? When you have a culture of investing in strategy in a collaborative way, that naturally creates, intrinsically motivated teams, because people's opinions, are valued, and so there is investment in the outcome. I think also, super important, and again, an obvious one, but the democratization of targets. What is the expectations on, deliverables for each team? And then, making sure that everyone, feels set up for success. And I think on that, being frank about, perceived or real risks and challenges, and talking through those with data. I think a lot of times teams, and individuals, have ideas of what works and what doesn't, and coming together and going through the data to really understand and align on the story and what we actually take forward, I think is so important.
And nowadays, I think there's just so much data, and you can take so many stories from it sometimes. You need to be able to be aligned. And, I hate to say it, one team, one dream. I had to. I'm sorry.
No. That's so true. Yes.
It goes a long way. And especially when you're trying to understand what is the story, what's the theme, and it can be overwhelming. So taking everyone on the journey with you.
Yes.
So important, Chris. I totally agree. I want to jump back actually and talk about the growth of LSKD as a brand, because I remember watching it just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Only a couple of years ago even. And I know you guys started off as kind of like a marketing-led brand, Eloise. We've had a quick chat about this. Now we're trying to go more towards product-led. Could you take us through that journey of what that looks like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. After our initial rapid growth, we realized we had this incredible amount of community who were really engaged with us and what we were doing and what we were creating as a brand. And I think we really took this opportunity to delve into understanding them better by listening to their feedback, what they loved about our product, what could be improved, and what they felt was missing from our product range. And this helped us to intensify our focus on product development and innovation and give the community the products that they wanted. It's something we continue to do to this day to make sure we're serving our community through product testing, reading customer reviews. I think that's so important. It's a gold mine, I think. So also sweating with our community. We're an activewear brand, so getting out into the communities that they're a part of, seeing what's going on. And even reaching out to them directly post-purchase to find out what their experience was like. So, yeah.
So it's really about, you've got the customer and like how can we service them best to hang on to them, right?
Absolutely.
It's interesting because I feel like this is such a topic right now. It's like customer acquisition, retention, what means more. And I think in line with that comes market share. It's like, okay, let's just get as much as we possibly can. Let's get our name out there, which I think, I'm a bit biased. I come from planning. I love a bottom line. I love a gross profit. And I think maybe Chris, you might be the same boat as me here, but I'd love to hear from you, Eloise, with LSKD. You are so marketing led. We're kind of shifting to product. How do you keep profit in your mind throughout all of this? What do you think is more important? Is there one that's better than the other?
Oh, I think like you always need to keep profitability as a forefront. I think when we're actually looking at profitability, what does it look like to your business? And at LSKD, profit's an outcome of what we do. And it's important because it allows us to reinvest back into the business and our community. But it's not the sole reason we exist. Profitability is a sign we're on the right track, but it's not the end point. If we're listening to our team and our community, we can continue to improve our product and our community experience, which helps fosters this sense of belonging, which is what our journey is all about. And this also creates a cycle of profitability. The more we listen, the more we understand our community, and the more we understand, the better we can all innovate and create products that our community really resonate with. And this leads to organic customer retention and increased life value.
I want to circle back to that in a second with the start of the product life cycle and how you kind of get it right first, But Chris, I'd also love to hear your thoughts on profit. I mean, CEO, I'm sure this is something on your mind all the time, and with your previous experience, close to your heart.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on market share versus profitability? Do you think that there is a right time for a growing brand to like take one over the other, or should we really be trying to balance them from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with Eloise. I think, profitability, it has to be a part of your brand journey. But yeah, it's not a strategy in itself. It has to be weaved into your decision-making process. And, that applies to, assessing ranges, but, also everything that you do in business. I think, when margins are tight, I guess the positive is, you're really driven to innovate, in so many areas. And, when you're in that space and it feels like you have so much to do, I think, look into the data and understand where the opportunity is. And, this can really help guide you on where you should actually invest your time and energy to make sure that, you're seeing a return. And when you do get to that point of profitability, as, I think, Eloise, you said, you're able to invest back into your product ranges. And, that investment in developing a range that has newness or product innovation and has your customer in mind, importantly, ultimately that's, what's going to grow your business, market share and profitability.
And it is, I think, keeping a finger on the pulse too. Profit can't be once a season. We just have a quick look. It really needs to be at all aspects of the buy cycle or the product cycle. There's lots of discussions about big retailers going down and was it profit? Which part did we lose out on? There's discussions about, is it because we offered free returns or is it because we didn't have a high enough first margin? But really it's a holistic approach. We've really got to keep it in mind in all aspects.
100%. Yeah. And it's about mapping all of those data points together. Yeah.
Actually, speaking of data points, Chris, what kind of data points should we be looking for when we're analyzing profit? I mean, I love it, Mizzy, but what would you, talking to our brands today, what should we be looking for?
Oh gosh, there's so many.
Loaded question there for you, Chris.
No, it's such a good one. I remember, when I started in the industry, I was in a range meeting, and someone came in that wasn't in buying or planning or design, and suggested, why don't you just back the winners? That
love that.
Yes, and kind of eye rolls in the room, but it did get me thinking, like, surely there's got to be a scientific way, like, how do we crack this? How do we help pick the winners? And I think there is definitely a way to use data points to take calculated risks, to grow sales and increase profitability at the same time. I think a great place to start, is your ranging pyramid. So I think if you can identify the portion of your range that you're targeting to be made up of, say, your volume product, you can set benchmarks on profitability, and then that enables you to take risk into new products that you can test with your customers. Retail pricing, don't just go off a markup, gauge the market value based on your product data points. I think that's such an important one. And then when you're quantifying your buys, consider everything about historical performance of like styles, and then overlay that with your expectations on grading, taking into account, marketing investment. That's such a big one. And then once you've got, your pricing and quantification set, then you can see how that washes up for your margin projections. I would say, though, and I think this is where it can be a little bit of a trap of where people, do come into this space of, our margin is much lower than we expected. And sometimes it is. It's either about those mixes or it's about certain data points not being captured. So I would say that if you're going to be short margining, maybe some of your more pinnacle products and they overperform, and then you buy back into them to continue that performance, that's really going to hit your bottom line. So it's really, planning out those mixes and then buying accordingly. And then, of course, like once the product lands, tracking sell-through in season, and adjusting your pricing strategies based on demand. That's going to help, inform your decision of whether you wait for a sale period or whether you, breathe the room, so to speak, and take decisive action outside of sale period.
Keyword, weighted margin. It's it's all there. Actually, that's an amazing segue, because I did want to come back to the product life cycle and talking about breaking the cycle of markdowns and promotions. I mean, I personally love a Black Friday for my own wallet. But in fashion retail, it's probably not my favorite topic to talk about, especially when I have my head of e-commerce marketing telling me I have to take part in this huge sale event. And I've just retrained the customer to be able to take a full price product at any time of the year. So it's a hard one to crack. Eloise, for you guys, I know you have such high value product. What are your thoughts on Black Friday promotions and these big sales events? How do you navigate these?
Yeah, look, it's a really interesting one, I think. And I don't know if there's any right or wrong way, but like at LSKD, we really love to see Black Friday as a celebration for our brand and the energy behind it. We are a higher value product and quality product. So for our team and our community, Black Friday is something we look forward to every year because we get to express ourselves, have fun, and showcase our product to a huge audience. We also see it as an incredible opportunity for new people to discover our brand in huge numbers, and it gives us an opportunity to create lifelong community members. But like you said, as we all love Black Friday, especially as consumers ourselves. It is a special event in buying, and we need to be focused on making the best product at the best price for the community year round. Pricing inventory right is key, and it leads back to profitability to avoid marking down the product. Listening to our community and our team to get feedback and being reactive in season when we haven't priced stock at the right level is incredibly important. And we don't always catch it before it goes to market either. There was a season actually semi-recently where our hoodies and sweaters were just not priced at the right level. So we actually reacted in season and adjusted the price down to offer better value. Because it was already live and we're an omni-channel retailer, there were some community members who had actually already purchased the product at a higher price. And I think when we do something like that, we have to really understand how that impacts the customer who's already bought that. How are they going to feel when they might have bought it a couple of days ago and then it's being adjusted down? So we actually worked with our wonderful CX team to pull a list of orders that had been impacted by the price change, and we actually reached out to them to refund them the difference. It really wasn't their fault that we got the pricing wrong, like, you know, and I think there's a saying, the buyer's never right. So you've either bought too much or too little, or, you know, so.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just about how you approach it when you don't get it right, that builds genuine trust within your community. Like, something that's such a small act, like for them, well, for us, shows them that we really care about them and we've got their back. So.
Totally. You would have won me as a customer for life if that was me reaching out. I mean, you already have, don't worry. But generally speaking, I think that's awesome. And I think too, with these sales events, I know you said before, it's a lot of new people coming in, which again, I think is a really great opportunity to dive into the data of who's in our community now, and we're servicing them, you know, with product, and where we're kind of building out that strategy. But for the new people coming in, how can we grab them? Who are they? Are they different to our different community? It's kind of a nice process to go through to learn about new people who haven't seen LSKD before, and they get to try it out at maybe a bit of a discounted rate, so they feel a bit safer when they're purchasing. Chris, I'd love to actually hear your thoughts on, I'm throwing you all the reporting questions here today.
Yeah,
I mean, what do you think you could learn about new customers on these kind of events?
Yeah, and I think it's such a great way to phrase it. It is. It's about, you know, looking at those data points and saying, you know, what can you learn? You know, it's a great one for customer acquisition. And I think it's always fascinating, you know, reviewing volume, price, mix, velocity across a range, you know, on pricing. I think some products, you know, only need a 10% discount to spike sell through, and others won't or don't move with deep discounts. So it's really, I guess, about picking up on those data points throughout the season, you know, and tracking that product performance. And that's going to, you know, mean that, you know, you truly understand your customer sentiment, and importantly, the perceived value of your product. You know, I think first prize is obviously pricing your product right first time, but I love what Eloise has shared around, you know, responding to customer indicators and repricing product in season. You know, we of course want every product to perform at full price. However, you know, the reality is that some products just don't land, and it's important to respond to this. And, you know, equally important that you take those learnings into the ranging for the following season. I think a good little tip, you know, for monitoring your pricing strategy by category is tracking your sell price brackets versus your RRP brackets. And then below those kind of top line trends, drilling into the product detail to see, you know, where are the outliers, and then the visual at product level. And that really helps you to understand themes. And I guess get closer to, you know, reading what customers, you know, are telling you. I think also checking in on return rates and reasons can give you great insights. And if you really want to take that opportunity to kind of right size in market, I think reviewing your data story across your product, you know, including sell-through, cover, margin, you know, every week, I think means, you know, you're then going to be in the best position to respond accordingly. Yeah, not waiting for those sale periods. It has to be consistent.
Always. And it's such a balance, I find, sometimes in reviewing your data every week. You know, we love a Monday trade, but how reactive is too reactive? And, you know, how many times do we need to listen to what they're telling us, and we've got to really take it seriously this time? I remember a mentor of mine told me the power of 3, you know, 3 weeks, 3 times, 3 trades, like then we can really like dive into it. Because sometimes you do have those spikes. You know, Black Friday is a really good example. You have your sales shopper who's been lurking in the background for 11 months, waiting for this to go on sale so she can get 50% off, whatever it is, which is me, sorry. And, you know, I have a very different way of shopping to, I'm sure, your VIP community, you know, of what those products are and what price point you're purchasing for. So I totally agree with you, Chris. It's consistently reviewing the data, but then the ability to pull it all together and layer on these really holistic data points of product, planning, customer in one space is so important to get a full story.
So yeah, so important. It's just bringing it all together. It's a story.
It's the power of data, I'm telling you.
Absolutely. We all love it.
So we all do. I know, that's why we're here. We just can't stop. I mean, so we kind of spoke about, community, talking about moving to product led. I want to go back again a step in the product life cycle, all the way back to design, option planning, all that fun stuff. And talk about newness, because I know LSKD has some of the coolest activewear, but it's activewear, it's a very silhouette driven business, and newness is super important, we know, in fashion. But how important can newness be to a brand like LSKD? How do you keep up with, servicing your community with new things? But at the same time, there's only so many leggings you can do,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something really interesting. And, we've gone on this journey of unpacking what this means for LSKD. And, as we grow our community, we do have a higher returning community rate. So newness is incredibly important, because we want to keep servicing them with new products that they really want to buy and help solve a problem for them. So we're continually improving our products based on community feedback and our market research. We as LSKD, being an activewear company, we put a focus on fit, fabric, and function. Our products need to be built for purpose. You can't just drive innovation through like prettiness and excess ruffles or whatnot. I personally love ruffles, but not my activewear. So we wanted to use our community feedback to improve our product, and whilst also solving problems, I guess, that the community didn't even know that they had, the real surprise and delights. I think that's a fantastic way to drive innovation in a silhouette driven business. Pockets in the right placements, watch holes, products with multi-purpose functions, that when they get them, they're like, oh my God, I'm so excited by this. This is, so interesting. And I think if it solves a problem, it gives the community a reason to buy. And if you show you're listening to your community and improving your products based off their feedback, it really makes it a lot easier for the community to buy into new products, because they know that the trust is there and we've taken all that feedback. So yeah, newness is incredibly important.
And Eloise, how are you guys getting all of this feedback? Do you have reviews on the website? Are you talking to customers? Where are you getting all this data from?
Yeah, customer reviews is super important for us. We love seeing that. And I think it also helps build trust for a new community when they're shopping the website. We can tell you anything we want about our products, but I think the proof's in the pudding when you really hear it from other customers who've loved the products, and talk to the community about the sizing, and they get a really informed picture. We also get out in community sweats. We see the product being worn, so don't be surprised if you just see like undercover LSKD out in the community, like watching. No, we obviously talk to the guys and let them know we're there. But yeah, like getting out in the gym, seeing how it's performing. Our CX team, we've got a Facebook group. There's so many different points of contact of how we gather that feedback.
Oh, that's so important. It's so nice to hear that you guys are so on that and listening straight from the customer, because I mean, I used to always say, like, just get on the shop floor, like get out there, read the reviews, because you will learn. Floor is a huge one. And you can even just listening to the walk by as you're hanging something up or pretending to be on your phone, you can be a fly on the wall to hear the conversation of the decision making process of this legging or this one will tell you a lot.
Absolutely.
I also want to kind of dive into, how do you balance the newness with the rest of your range? I know like core would be super important to you guys. I'm not sure what kind of percentage that runs for you, but I wonder how can we balance a range where we want to bring in these new cool fabrics and this new cool fit, but like, what if it tanks and then I've lost my budget for the month and then I'm not going to get an open to buy for next time? And Chris, actually, it would be really amazing to hear from you from this perspective. When you're signing off an open to buy or when you're signing off a range, how do you keep all of these things in mind to mitigate the risk and still give the customer some fashion and some newness and some core at the same time.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, as Eloise mentioned, it's that, newness, it's creating that, that reason to buy. And having, a healthy injection of newness is so important to keep your customers engaged with you. I think if you want to mitigate, risks, you really need to pull together, I think, we've said all of your product performance data points. The starting point, is the numbers of the comparative season, and mixes across categories. But it's really important to go that next layer down and consider other factors like, pricing, an obvious one, checking your sell-through and taking into account markdowns, and whether this is artificially inflated performance because you don't necessarily want to buy back into that product. Looking at the true rate of sale of a product, if supply has been constrained. I think especially, if you've got a retail network like, Eloise does, looking at all of those stocking points and, reviewing the visual of styles, I think, and reviewing customer reviews, exactly as, Eloise has mentioned as well, to understand, why things have worked or not. It's important to understand both sides. And when you're able to tell, the full story of a range, you can then take those learnings into the future range planning. And that is what helps you, I guess, mitigate risk. It's also important, to review the range against your brand story and identify, is this newness an extension or is it a complete diversion? And if it is a complete diversion, to warrant that allocation of open to buy, I think you need to be prepared to back it, with marketing. So, your customers know to come to you for this product.
It's the weighting, I guess, of how you want to purchase these high risk products, right? We don't want to buy an equal allocation in all of them, but it's almost like you don't want to go too little at the same time. It's like, what is that perfect amount? And that really will just come from, what did I miss out in last season in those missed opportunities from the best selling products that it surprised me. And I think too, it's super important to bring together like products from last season, but more based on concept for the customer.
Yes.
They don't always take products so literally.
Yes.
They don't always say, oh, that jacket had that lapel and that button. They think, oh, that would suit this occasion that I'm going to next week, or that makes me feel like this. And that's where I think reviews, customer flaws, like really understanding the thought behind it will really help you quantify.
Yeah. What job is this performing in my wardrobe?
Yes, exactly. Whereas my thought is, I'll come up with an occasion. I'll find something for it.
Yeah, it is. As I said, it's creating a reason to buy. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could just be that it's so beautiful that you just can't, resist.
Have it. Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that the best option of all the three? It's just creating such incredible product. You can't not buy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eloise, we've been talking a lot about community actually, and I really appreciate and look up to LSKD how close-knit you are with your VIPs and the community that you service. And I'd like to talk about it in a nerdy way, of course, about sizing. Cool. And how you're inclusive with your sizing to the community. I know it's not always easy. You've only got X amount of dollars to spend. This is your budget. But how do you service the community through inclusivity and sizing?
Yeah, look, as an activewear brand and, with our mission to be 1% better every day, we, through inspiring people through sports, fitness and adventure, we really genuinely want to be as inclusive as we can. Our community is who we're here for. And that's literally, we're here to serve them basically. So we want to be as inclusive as possible and welcoming. And I guess we do have a pretty inclusive size range at the moment, from 2XS to 3XL. And we're always looking at ways of expanding that where there is demand. We know that obviously, like we were just touching on before, that not all sizes sell the same, not all products sell the same. So it can be tricky to warrant the demand warrant the budget if the demand isn't showing through in the numbers. But I think this is where again, touching on customer feedback and, listening to your community, we're hearing that there's demand for this product. So I think, again, as Chris mentioned before, it's like, how are you showing up for them? How is it coming through in your marketing? So it's just like, I think we really need to look into that. So, does this community, if we're not seeing the demand in that sizing, but we're hearing it's there, does this community know that we're selling their size? How are we showing them this? Are our campaigns diverse enough? Do we have, different sizes in there? Do they see themselves in our campaigns? Also, I think a super important one is, what do our mannequins look like in store? Like, do they see, these products clearly displayed, and does it make them feel safe and welcome to come into the store? One for e-com, which I think is also super important, is, do our online size guides and return policies give them the confidence that we have the right fit? I think if free returns and a clear size guide, I think that says, like, you don't want to return our product because we know we've got the fit right. And if you don't, if we didn't get it right, then, that's on us again. But realistically, having that just, I think, builds the confidence that we've got the right fit. And I think to be truly inclusive, we have to invest in more than just stock. In those sizes, we need to be listening and talking to this part of the community, like I said, about how we're messaging in marketing and in our stores and in our campaigns.
And consistency too, right, Eloise? We can't do it for one season. We've got to keep going.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, whole business behind it. Got to back it. Got to do it for a few seasons, and then really see it come back. Before we get to the extended size range, though, I guess what kind of should we be looking for? This might be a question for you, Chris. What kind of things should we be looking for, or have you seen brands extend size ranges incredibly well that you could note?
Yeah, for sure. I think, whether it's, a size curve or, a new product, I think what we're saying is you need to be intentional, and that includes investing in marketing, window displays or your e-com site merchandising. And it's being really clear about the story that you're telling so that resonates and feels authentic to your brand for your customers. And I'm going to be stating the obvious, but you have to set up the product and the range for success. It's such a shame when great product or, extended sizes are cut short because they weren't given the best chance of success, without that holistic backing. So I would say, I think you said before, the magic of 3, give launches at least 3 weeks to get a read. Anything shorter than that is really not giving it a chance, and then commit to being consistent with it. I think in terms of the data, and where I see brands doing it really well, and how much to buy into those extended size curves, I think it really comes back to your sell-through. It's understanding your lost opportunity when you have sold out of those fringe sizes, and then extrapolating that out to build out your total opportunity. And, if you have retail store network, it's looking at the sell-through at each of those stocking points, and then taking into account any constraint there to aggregate up to your true rate of sale. I think another thing that I see from brands that, are successfully rolling out extended size curves is, I think, Eloise has mentioned, it's really looking at those reviews and then fine-tuning fits based on that. I think that's the key.
Yeah, I remember working for a brand and I spotted a couple of weird things in a post-season review. I was like, okay, skirts are doing really well. That's interesting. Okay, I can see my size curve is looking not traditional. Like, we're going towards a bigger size range there. And, every layer I went down and down and down, it was like, okay, top line, then we're going to go by size, and then we're going to go by story and subcategory. It was so interesting because it was all of my bias fit, tight fitting silk skirts that we wanted to go up in, and everything else was totally fine, just in our normal range. So therefore I saved my open to buy, because at first I was like, oh my God, we need bigger sizes and skirts across everything. That's it. But actually, the more I got into the data, and was looking more at the top line stories, it was like, I can actually be really specific about this extension, and that it can be, only 20%, and that still increased my sales next season, which was so cool to see.
Yeah, you really need to go deep.
You need to go deep, and you take the time. No, I agree. I mean, and that's not even talking about stores. So, I mean, let's get into that whole chestnut.
Yeah.
Watching LSKD, you guys are growing so fast. You're opening, your 12th store in 2 years, just so exciting to see.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that I say it's super exciting, but I know that I've been in the shoes before of opening stores incredibly fast, and it can be a bittersweet experience sometimes. It's so cool to watch the brand grow, but at the same time, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work. So how are you doing, Eloise? How is LSK doing growing with all of these new stores?
Yeah, it's actually crazy. Yeah, we're opening Toowoomba this Saturday, so that'll mark our 12th store. So super exciting, heading out there later this week. Or I think it's tomorrow. I'm heading out there. Sorry. Retail it's such a different world to e-com, and obviously we came from that background. So I think making that journey into retail, like, we've had lots of wins. Absolutely. But we've also had a ton of learnings. And I think, making those mistakes is part of the journey, and it's what we take from them and how we apply those learnings to the next store that has seen us constantly improve and will continue to see us level up in this space. One of those learnings for us has really been around tailoring the product range to each store. Each store has a different demographic and a climate, so the product range really needs to reflect that. There's no point in putting, puffers in a Queensland store in the middle of summer, or, it's just even like down to color, in Melbourne versus Queensland, the colors are completely different because the market and what the products are used for, and the activities that people are going to are very different. So it's so interesting, and it's almost sometimes, how do we keep those stores with the same brand identity and very similar product ranges, feeling cohesive, but also serving those community directly as well. Yeah. I think something as well is if you're an omni-channel retailer, which we started off as e-com, obviously. I think looking into if you're looking to open a new store, you can actually use the e-com data to help guide ranging decisions for each demographic, and what are the trends you're seeing in your e-com data in that geographic area, and that you can actually use to decide what that range will look like in store. Also, a personal wow moment for me, I think. This was, I don't know why I found it so interesting, but it was just one of those things that you're like, that makes so much sense. But it was just like, wow, when I realized it. I think actually understanding how much community you've already got in opening that area, it's interesting to see how much the return customer rate impacts the products they purchase. So returning customers really want newness, whereas first-time community members really tend to lean towards more of our core products as they're getting to know LSKD. So I just found that so interesting.
I love that. Do you find you guys are leaning on that with your allocations and your store layout, is just really making sure that core range mix is high for those new customers?
Absolutely. I think it's a balance for each store. We definitely want to get that certain core mix right, the new product mix right, and different stores have different mixes based off, what we're seeing our community rate is in each of those areas. So it's also great because retail gives us an amazing opportunity to meet more of our community and get more feedback about those products because they're touching, they're feeling, they're trying on. And it's definitely worth every cent of investment we've put into it so far.
I love what you said too about, they're already there and you've got e-commerce data, like looking at shipping state reports, like what are they already buying and getting shipped to their home, and how can I use that to I mean, going back to our first question, we want to get better at planning and forecasting, and that's it. Is using the data you've got to, we've got to take a wild guess in there somewhere, but that's a pretty informed decision, I'd say, with some shipping state reports.
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm sorry, I'm always going to come back to sizing. I mean, I guess that would be completely different for online and retail, or do you find that they're quite similar, Eloise?
They're actually quite different. We definitely do find that traditionally retail, we actually sell some of our 2XS a lot better in store. So our smallest size, and from feedback from our stores and stuff, it's because there's a lot of mums shopping with younger kids, trying things on. Whereas I think online, our larger sizes tend to sell better. And that's probably because we're, maybe that community that's buying those larger sizes also, they feel more comfortable buying online with our size guides and whatnot. Maybe they don't know that we've actually got that size in store, but that's definitely something we're working on improving. Like our mannequins are, size inclusive in stores to help continue to build that growth and awareness.
Yeah, and I guess that comes back to the consistency, right? And having the whole business behind your size ranging. I mean, you guys have worked so hard on getting the word out there for your e-commerce customer, and now it's really just about getting it across for retail. Chris, what about you? I mean, I know you've managed huge store networks before. What are your thoughts on optimizing size ranges and just product ranges in general between channels?
Yeah, I think, picking up on the theme that, Eloise mentioned, it's just making sure you don't have a blanket approach. The first layer is definitely looking at it at a channel level between, e-com and retail, because, typically those sizes are really different. But it's also going down to, a store level, because whilst there might be, in retail, maybe, a more marked curve, you need to make sure you're going down to a site level to make sure that you're not disappointing customers, at certain locations. So I guess that would be the key, is to make sure that you're going down to that level with your size curves.
Juicy stuff, guys. Oof. All right. If you haven't put your question in the Q&A already, please do so now. Let me have a look. We've got a few here, actually. Let's go. Oh, okay. On the topic of sizing, we're still talking about that. Eloise, do you deal with bracketing and sizing a lot in e-commerce? Like, how do you guys, I know you guys are taking in reviews and whatnot, but do you find that this is a problem, or do you encourage bracketing as a business when they're trying to find a size?
Look, I don't think anyone should really be encouraging bracketing. I don't think it's a very sustainable thing, but I think it's going to be inevitable at some part, but I think having things like detailed size guides, adding technology to the website to really help the community understand your sizing, building in those community reviews from other people as well, so they can really get a true reflection of what the size can help reduce bracketing and your return rate, because you want to get that down. It's, if you focus on your fit and your fabric and your function and getting everything right, I think, as well as those size guides and the reviews, if you build them all together, you can really help reduce bracketing.
Yeah. And the other one I want to throw your way, Eloise, is replicating online. So LSKD started as an online retailer. I mean, shifting to retail. How do you manage that? How do you present a range? I mean, visual merchandising and e-com merchandising are the same in concept, but quite hard to get across. So how are you guys doing that at the moment, just replicating the customer experience from online to retail?
I think we're trying to build a really seamless omni-channel experience. So bridging the gap wherever we can. So, shopping, merchandising the website, how you would shop in store, but also intuitively through an e-commerce way and flow as well. But I think in the retail store, we're also bringing in tech to be able to help the community shop the full range in store and offer ship to customer, where we may not have that product in store, but making it a really seamless experience between the two stores as much as possible.
That actually answers the next question, which was about omni-channel experiences and mitigating risk and allocation. So perfect. You've done 2 in 1. Basically, fantastic. Yeah. But I mean, for whoever asked this one, it's mitigating risk and allocation, I guess, is giving them different channels if you don't have it in that particular store right away, shipping to their home, going through online. I love that. Okay, just conscious of time here. We'll do one more question. I'm going to throw it your way, Chris. This one's for you. So we're just asking here, considering the retail landscape of today, how do we invest in our culture?
In team culture? Oh, I love that. Okay.
Team culture, yeah.
Oh, so good. Yeah, I think, when there's so much, uncertainty in the news, whether it's, about the market or the economy, it's really natural that, that makes people feel vulnerable, and that feeling of uncertainty, is bad for culture. And so I think it comes back to almost what we started with, which, sharing information, you need to be transparent, but also with a focus on being, constructive. It's not about looking at things through rose-tinted glasses. It's giving context and really working to understand the why. So I think investing in culture, is about consulting with your teams and soliciting people's thoughts. And once you understand the story and have actionable insights, share those initiatives. I think also, incorporating a process of range planning consultation and sharing market investment, with trading and sales teams is so engaging. And if you get feedback that, is not going to be accounted for, you need to be ready to validate that and give reasons why, it's not being taken on board. So I think it's about, connecting with your teams in a really genuine way and bringing them in where it's practical. And I think when people are part of the solution and brought on the journey, that is incredibly motivating and, great for culture. You feel like, okay, we're all in this together, we're all part of the vision. And if you don't look after your people, I think that, that makes success really hard. So yeah, it's been really inspiring hearing you, Eloise, talk about, the team approach at LSKD, because it just, it feels so authentic, your connection with not only your internal team, but also your customers, and that genuine, connection with your community.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. And it is true. We absolutely love going to work every single day because, we're passionate about what we do. We're passionate about our community and our team. And it's just, it doesn't feel like a job. It feels like, where it's like a group of friends making some really great products and for our amazing community. So yeah, we're really lucky.
And I think when you have, a team that is so motivated, success, as we've kept coming back to in this chat, you are looking at the data, but just having the data doesn't do the job. You need people, wanting to analyze those numbers and feel passionate about taking those insights and translating those into trading or buying actions. And that's what brings the data to life and ultimately translates to success.
Absolutely.
What a beautiful answer. That was great, guys.
Yeah, I love it.
So for everyone joining us today, we've got a couple of QR codes if you want to learn more about LSKD or Style Arcade. Please go ahead. I mean, Chris, do you have any final tips or thoughts before we sign off for today?
I think it's probably just, it's wrapping it together. It's data points and understanding what your customers and also your internal teams, are telling you. I think, understanding that why behind the performance is going to ensure that you're able to make informed decisions on, how you plan future ranges. So, that helps with that crystal ball.
I would love a crystal ball. 100%.
Yes. Order me one too if you find one.
Yes, we'll do a 3 for deal. Surely they'll do 3 for 20% off.
Oh, that's the magic like number again. There you go.
I know, it's our theme for today. And Eloise, what about you? If you had one piece of advice to give everyone today, what would that be?
Yeah, very, very similar to Chris's. It's, data is a huge part of what we do. And, I think it's one part though as well. It's just really about adding that context back to the data to see the full picture and tell the whole story, so that you can improve your ranging and your product, and grow your customer base. And all of that the context comes from being open to feedback from all channels and teams in your community. So yeah.
Incredible. All right. Well, thank you both so much for today. That was so much fun.
Yeah, it was
And thank you everyone for joining. We will see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.